So I'm going to pick up right where I left off in Psalms 91. And the reason why I'm going through Psalms 91 is because, we're seeing and have seen over and over, or men of God, women of God are saying, we need to apply Psalms 91. But we apply Psalms 91 almost in can I say, a flippant way? You know what I mean? It's like, hey, he's going to do it for us. Yeah, it's going to be great. You know what I'm saying? And we look at it that way. But let's dig right back in. I hope that for those who are watching online, and I know that there are a lot of people watching online, and I appreciate that. And I would just say to you, if you could just, share this, like it, get it out there, because I believe that the body of Messiah right now needs to know how to apply Psalms 91 in not a surface level way. But if we're going to latch a hold of the benefits that are being spoken about here, we have to dig a little deeper. And let me start out. It says, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty." You know what? That's a if and when. That's a if you do this, then you get that. Okay, this is not, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and I'm going to live however I want to live, and God is just going to protect me because He loves me, and He's the big slot machine God in the sky, and I just pull it back, and blessings going to fall out of the little slots, and you know what I'm saying? This is a if and then. If he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High. The shelter is the ohel, the tent, the tabernacle of God. And we'll get there in just a little bit. But, we dwell in that tabernacle. And today I want to point out, how do we battle from the tabernacle and not from the earth? And it is wrapped up in Psalms 91 here, okay? All right? Let me keep going. It says, "We'll abide under the shadow of the Almighty." I'm not that big of a guy, but if you want to abide in my shadow, even on a sunny day, you better get close. You get what I'm saying? You better get close, Russ is a big dude. But if I want to abide in his shadow, I got to be close enough to get in his shadow, or I'm not going to reach it. I mean, I've seen a shadow reach, maybe 20, 30 feet. That's pretty good, but I want to get closer than that. So if we're going to abide under the shadow of the Most High. Now, last week I went through 1 through 4, and we had to stop on 4. So I'm going to start back again on 4. And it says, "He will cover you with His pinions." And so 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. And so 2 weeks ago, I was saying that Kim and I were talking about, what are the pinions? And, we were thinking, well, it's got to be the pinion trees. New Mexico, if I go through New Mexico, I'm getting pinion nuts. I love pinion nuts, And if you ever get a chance, just Google them. I mean, the pine cones open up and all the pinion nuts are inside, and you got to pop them loose from the inside of the pine cones. I don't know why, I just think it's so cool, and they taste good. And so I thought, well, what are the pinions? It says that He will cover you with His pinions. And last week we discovered that His pinions are His wings. And not only are they His wings, they're His flying wings. The wings that allow Him to fly. And I wrote out, pinion has the gematria, the number value. I'm hoping nothing's in the way here. It has the number value of 611. In Hebrew, there is a number value for every word, every letter. You can do it in English too. I mean, you can figure out gematria, but the gematria of pinion is 611. The same for Torah is 611. So with that in mind, let's read it a little different. He will cover you with His Torah. He's covering you with His Torah. No, wait. This is an if and then again, because that's saying I have to submit to His Torah, and He's coming around me and covering me. As He comes around me, He's longing to cover me. Pinion represents His arm, or the mighty right hand of God. So His pinions, His strength, His arms are coming around me. God covers Israel with the merits of Torah given by his mighty right hand. Let me say that again. God covers Israel with the merits of Torah given by his mighty right hand. So let me make that just I'm hearing my dog howl in the background here. Let me explain this, okay? That when we keep his laws, his ways, when we keep it, we're earning merits. Now let me make this real clear, because there's a bunch of people that get this all confused, like, oh, so you're earning your way to heaven. No. Okay? My wife loves chocolate and chocolate caramels. You know what I mean? All right, I know what they look like because I know how to get them. What are they called? Caramellos, okay? So you want to win my wife's heart, you get her caramellos, okay? Now, in the merits of caramellos, if I pick up a package of caramellos, I am in. Okay? Does that have anything to do with my covenant? No, but it absolutely blesses my wife and lets her know that I love her, and I'm drawing her into my love, to my heart, by doing that. It's the same thing. And so, people are saying, well, you just think you're getting saved by keeping the commandments. No. What I'm doing is I'm wooing my Savior's heart. I'm letting him know how much I love him, because he said, if you love me, keep my commandments. Kim said, if you love me, get me Carmelos. Yeah, minus Nutty Buddy bars. You want to find the way to my heart? Bring me some Nutty Buddy bars. Those boxes, that's one serving size. Anyway, so write this down, Deuteronomy 33:2. He said, the Lord came from Sinai and dawned on them at Seir. He shone from Mount Paran, and he came in the midst of the myriads of the holy ones. At his right hand, remember I said his pinion represents his right hand. At his right hand, there was flashings of lightning for them. His pinions, his Torah. When he's covering us with his word, it's like flashes of lightning coming around you. Indeed, he loves the people. All your holy ones are in your hand, and they follow in your steps. Well, little weight there, isn't there? He loves his people. All your holy ones are in your hands, and they follow in your steps. Everyone takes of your words. Moses issued to us the law, a possession for the assembly of Jacob. So with pinion is 6:11, and so is Torah. Okay? The stronger the bird is, I said this last time I spoke on this, the stronger the bird is, the higher he is propelled. The stronger his wings are, the higher he is propelled. The weaker the wings, less height. They're not propelled quite as high.
We're seeing more and more eagles.
Yeah. Eagles, and I've been seeing a lot more hawks too, but they're not our chubby little hawks. Yeah. Okay? The more powerful a person's grasp is on Torah, the higher his spirit ascends. Remember, I'm not talking about revival. I'm talking about reformation. I'm talking about what is going to keep us in for the long haul. This week, it's kind of obvious that I'm fighting something right now. And, this week I had a fever. I was sitting at my desk and I said, no. And I was putting this message together and I'm like, no. And so I put on some worship and I started battling from that different place, I started reading His Word, and I started allowing the mighty right hand of His pinion, His strength wings, to come around me. And I told Kim, I said, man, I felt it break. I felt it break. I felt it come off of me. Yeah, and Kim kept saying, oh, do we need to cancel church? I said, no, did you not hear me? I just said it broke off. I said, my body's trying to catch up, but it's off. I don't have a fever. I don't have anything. It's just, well, I'm not trying to be gross, but even the color of stuff changed immediately. Okay? So anyway, unless I don't want to get gross, okay? Let me keep going. Okay? And under His wings. Now get this. Verse 4. He will cover you with His pinions, or with His strong wings, His flying wings, and under His decorative wings you may seek refuge. Let me say this again. Under His decorative wings you may seek refuge. In other words, with His strong wings, okay, with His strong wings is how, He's covering you with His pinions, but then with His decorative wings. It's kanaf, and it means the plume. The plume. And it is the outer feathers, or the ornamental feathers. Get this, every mitzvah, every law, everything that a person performs. Now let me say this again. When we perform a law, when we perform a mitzvah, when we do something that God told us to do, we're doing that by faith. We're doing that because we love Him. We're doing that because He asked us to, period. Okay? But when we do that, it is like a beautiful feather that is added to His plume. Added to His plume. Now get this. And I do talk a lot about our marriage, but when I do something that is a mitzvah, or I do something that blesses my wife, it makes her more beautiful in others' sights. Why? Because they see that she's special, she's set aside, she's different. She's real different sometimes. Right? She can dance. Usually in the middle of the store, and I try to get away from her, but it's too late because everyone done seen it. Do you know what I'm saying? But when I do something to bless her in public, it adds beauty to who my wife is. The same thing with the Lord. When we do something in public, I am not trying to gain His love. I'm doing it because I love Him and I'm in love with Him. And as I do that, it adds beauty to Him, not me. See, we get that all mixed up. I'm going to make myself look good, This week I kind of ran into that a little bit. I had asked somebody to do something on a more spiritual level, and I was really kind of shocked with the answer. And so I waited a little while, and then I gave him a message back and said, you know what, I found somebody else to do it. It's fine. I was just a little shocked. But, if we come at it in our flesh, right, and we try to build ourselves up, that is no beauty to the Lord. There is absolutely no beauty to the Lord. Okay? And that's what He's saying. Let's go back to verse 4. He will cover you with His pinions, or with His Torah, with His word, His strength, His flying wings, and under His decorative wings you may seek shelter. Isn't it cool that we bring beauty to the Lord? All right? And I'm saying, when we're going through Psalms 91, if we're going to apply this to our lives, we got to know how it works. Okay? His faithfulness. And this is just a little slap back. Anybody think that we're doing anything or we can gain anything on ourselves? Get this. His faithfulness is a shield and a bulwark. Whose faithfulness? It's not my faithfulness. You know what I mean? I love to make Him look good. But man, I'm telling you right now, there's nothing sitting here that's going to get anything done. It's His faithfulness. Does that make sense? Okay? His faithfulness is a shield and a bulwark. Okay? I like the way that it says this. Let me find my place here real fast. With his pinions he will cover you. The breath, and beneath his wings you will be protected. Shield and armor will be his truth. I love that. I mean, that's just from the Hebrew straight into English. Shield and armor will be his truth. You get what I'm saying? I mean, the shield and the armor that's coming around me is just his truth. There's nothing I can do to gain that. Okay? Does that make sense? The shield, well, the plume, let me see, this is last week's notes, or 2 weeks ago, and every mitzvah that a person adds, okay, they bring beauty to his plume. Okay, the word that is the Hebrew, if you break the Hebrew down, it says that the hand that blesses life's speech, or it would be better to say, there is a blessing like a plume when we speak his life. There's a blessing like a plume when we speak his life. How many of you guys have seen when we were kids, you would go to the zoo, and if you weren't one of the poor kids, and you had a little extra money, you would go to the zoo, and one of the things that you wanted to buy was that big old feather that came out of the peacock, right? Did you guys have that around here? In the Denver Zoo,
We didn't buy them, we'd go pluck them.
you just go pluck them?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Denver Zoo, I guess, but they would pick them up, and then you could buy them at the store, and I never thought about just pulling one out, but I wasn't a country kid, so I wasn't,
We chase them down and pull them out.
But man, you were the deal if you came home with one of those big old plumes. You thought you were pretty cool. That's what he's talking about. Shield, and get this, his shield is the one that protects you from the front. All right, let me read this again. It says, shield and armor will be his truth. A shield only protects you from the front. The word shield literally means the rough skin of a crocodile. Okay? The rough skin of a crocodile. So his shield is like a rough skin of a crocodile, but where does that only protects us from the front. I can hold a shield up, but man, I am vulnerable from other areas. But it says it is shield and armor. Armor comes fully around you. I'm just gonna draw this out real fast.
So bulwark is armor?
Armor, yes. Okay. So the shield is only good from one area. Okay. And let me just give me just a second, because when you see this, yeah, here. Okay. When you see this, it's gonna jump out at you, and so that's why I'm going to go ahead. This is the word armor. Okay. Okay. Let me make this a little thicker. Okay. Poor Norman. Okay. This is the word armor. Okay, in Hebrew. Here's the cool thing, is that this right here, that's the word circle. It's the word circle. His armor is a circle that comes around us. So in the Hebrew, I'll try to pronounce this, is Sokera is armor, and then circle is Sakar. Okay, it's a circle. And what it literally is saying is that his armor circles us. We're protected from behind. Okay? Does that make sense? And so I wanted to spell that in the Hebrew because you have armor, and then in the word armor literally is circle. It comes around you. Okay? And let me just get over to today's notes. And I needed to finish last week because I never got to that part. And so let's look at verse 5. You will not be afraid of the terror by night or by the arrow that flies by day. Listen, the terror, this is a if and then. You know what I'm saying? So if we don't apply verse 1 and 2, and you are out at night, say walking through a dark alley, or somewhere where, you shouldn't, or in one of the homeless encampments that we've been hearing about all over the place, right? If you're walking through there at night and you haven't applied, he who dwells in the shadow of the Most High will abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. If you're just walking out there bare to the world, the terror, or I will not be afraid of the terror by night. The terror by night is what we cannot see. Terror by night. I want you to get this, okay? When we're walking in the presence of God, when we're walking in the tabernacle of the Lord, we're walking in the presence of God and we feel His Spirit around us, we're never alone, for one. And for two, is that when we walk through the terror by night. The terror by night is what is going on in our own heads. I mean, you guys remember as little kids, Double Dog dare you to walk through the cemetery. Right? We did that to my brother. My brother's always been kind of big. And we're like, he goes, well, I ain't afraid. I ain't afraid. All right. So he walked through the cemetery, and I am telling you the truth. He fell into a grave. We were all scared then. One of the old caskets, it was an old grave, and one of the old caskets gave way, and his foot went into the ground. And thank goodness he didn't touch anything, but I mean, we were freaked out for months. No one went near there, right? Okay? What happens to terror by night is what's going on up in here. How many of you guys have been terrified by night and you were not able to move? The Lord's saying in Psalms 91 that I'm going to move you through the places where your mind is trying to stop you. Have you guys ever been at that place, where maybe you felt like someone's coming in the house? And you have that horror that comes over you. You just can't move. You can't move. You're like, what is going on? I'm a grown man. Why am I acting this way? It's probably, and I told this story about 2 months ago. I kept hearing something banging outside, and I was like, oh, my heart's pounding, and I'm like, I get up and, I get my pew-pew, and we're walking out there, I'm like, what's going on, It's a stupid trash can. You know what I mean? The Father's longing to take us away from the fear or the terror by night. It's what's going on up here. We live in a messed up world right now. Is that fair to say? We got a lot of things going on. A lot of people are, saying this, saying that. We're looking at the just the process of going through the next elections. You know what I mean? The only power that any of those things that happen at night have over us is what it can happen in our brains. And so, you will not be afraid of the terror by night, but when you're walking in the dark alone, you will be. But if you realize that you're walking with Him, you will not be walking in that terror. Okay? The unknown forces your imagination to tell you what is lurking out there. Let me say that again. The unknown forces your imagination to tell you what's lurking out there. But when you're walking with God, you are never alone. And I'm sure that some of you guys have experienced that. When you're just in the presence of God, it could be pitch dark outside and you're fine. You're fine. I mean, the coyotes are howling. You know what I mean? It's like whatever's going on, it's like, oh man, I can just feel the presence of God in this place. I remember camping in Colorado one time, and man, we heard all this just banging around and all this different stuff, and I did not want to get up, and I was just like, I don't know what it is, but let's just go to sleep. We'll be all right. You know, we wake up in the morning, and the 55-gallon drum that was for the trash can for the campsite was completely flattened. A buddy of mine was like, how did you sleep? I go, I don't know. Once it stopped banging around, we were fine. What was it? He goes, it was a huge black bear. He just completely demolished this can. And I'm looking at the can. I'm like, well, maybe I should have been a little in fear, you know what I mean? But the presence of God was just in our tent. We were fine. That's what the Lord wants to bring us. When we're reading Psalms 91, when you're in the most fearful place, the most darkest place, that's when his presence wants to meet us and carry us. Does that make sense? Let me get off this a little bit, okay? The second part of this. Or by the arrow that flies by day. You know, it's one thing to be afraid of the things that we cannot see coming, but the arrow that comes by day, okay, are the things that catch you off guard. I mean, you could see somebody maybe draw a bead with a bow, you know, and I mean, you could see that coming in a sense, but can you? You know, I think so many times people are, they judge themselves because I should have saw that coming. Have you guys ever done that to yourselves? I should have saw that coming. I should have saw that coming. I can't believe this happened. I should have saw that coming. This is the thing that here that says, or by the arrow that flies by day. The thing that we should have saw coming, but we can't see coming. Right? I want to point this out. I didn't see it coming. Attacks are the worst. Don't fear what you don't see coming. I mean, you know, it's when we don't see it coming, the Father does see it coming. Just write this down, Amos 3:6. If a trumpet is blowing in the city, will the people not tremble? Now think about that. If I blow a trumpet right now, even if you see it coming, you see me getting ready to blow a trumpet, doesn't it kind of startle you a little bit? Okay. If disaster occurs in the city, has the Lord not brought it about? If you see a disaster, you ever been just driving down the road and man, you see the guy swerving, you know he's asleep and you're like, oh no, bam, they're in the accident, right? Are you still shocked when that's a suddenly? Did you see it coming? It's still suddenly. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And this is the protection that he's speaking about is the suddenly. And let me keep reading. Certainly the Lord does nothing unless he reveals his secret plans to his servants, the prophets. A lion has roared. Who will not fear? You know, I talk a lot about the lions when we go down to Caney and we go to the Caney Zoo and you hear the lion roar. You know, Samson, you know, he's getting older. I don't even know if he's still alive now, but when that lion roars, it goes through you. You feel it. Even though you know he's getting ready to make him roar, you watch the guy saying, okay, well, we'll make him roar. He roars and it goes through you. That's what he's saying. Even when you see it coming and it's still sudden, the Lord is speaking through his prophets and bringing that peace. Okay? The Lord God has spoken. Who can do anything but prophesy? This is what I want to bring out about this. That the arrow that flies by day, that we have a protection prophetically for. We have protection prophetically for. Where does the prophetic come from? The tabernacle. The tabernacle. If I am dealing with life here on earth, and I'm walking in flesh 24 hours, 7 days a week, and I don't have time to check it with the presence of God, then I'm not open to his prophetic word to say, hey, I need you to go left, go right, be careful, watch what you're doing. Does that make sense? Okay? So we have that in that. A trumpet or an alarm is sudden. Disaster is sudden. A roar from a lion is sudden. But the Lord is prophesying beforehand. Even if it happens and it catches your attention, you knew it was coming. There's a peace in that. Just like the terror. Well, I'll just say this. What was it? 3 weeks before war broke out in Israel, I said that war or something, Israel will have to come under some kind of attack or something for revival to begin to break free. You know, that was 3 weeks before. And then boom, when it happened, it was still suddenly, but we saw it coming. Does that make sense? Okay, and so what it means in here in Psalms 91, if we're going to apply that to the fearful things in our lives, is that it might be sudden, it might catch your attention, it might cause that little fear jolt to go through you, but God told you ahead of time. Okay? He told us ahead of time. The attack that happens in broad daylight or the arrow that flies by day has no fear of anyone. We have a defense with the prophetic voice of the Lord, but someone who attacks in broad daylight has no fear of anyone. So when we read this, of the pestilence that strikes in darkness, or I'm sorry, I skipped one. You will not be afraid of the terror by night. That's what you can't see. Or by the arrow that flies by the day. That's by the brazen that will attack you during broad daylight. He promises us that even the brazen that would like to attack us during broad daylight, he'll speak to us. We'll know beforehand. We know what to do and where to go. Does that make sense? Okay. Let me hit 6 here. Okay. Verse 6 it says, of the pestilence that strike in darkness, or of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. See, 5 and 6 both talk about the things hidden in darkness and the things that are in broad daylight. Okay? Of the people that strike, are the plagues that stalk in darkness, is how it's written in this translation that just comes straight from the Hebrew. Of the plagues that stalks in the darkness. You know, we can't see the things that we can't see. Or of the destruction that devastates at noon. I'm sorry, I read the wrong one. It says, nor the pestilence that walks in gloom. Nor the pestilence that walk in gloom. Nor the destroyer who lays waste at noon. Okay? When the weather's gloomy, there's an uptick in sicknesses, isn't there? I mean, we're just looking at this from a physical standpoint. When it's gloomy for weeks and weeks and weeks, people kind of get depressed. They're kind of dragging around, okay? Get this. The pestilence, nor the pestilence that walks in gloom. Gloom, or the pestilence that walks in gloom, is rooted in depression. Gloom is darkness or severe cold, but noon is the broad daylight. Depression is when a person is so locked into their gloom that they cannot see the sun. I mean, everyone's probably gone through a season where life just seemed so rough and all they could see was the thing that was bad. That's the gloom that comes in the darkness. It's depression. Or the pestilence that walks in gloom. The pestilence is what it does to your physical body. The destroyer lays waste at noon. Once the pestilence of gloom has taken over, the destroyer can take you out in broad daylight. Let me say that again. Once the pestilence of gloom has overtaken you, the destroyer can take you out in broad daylight. How do we get into gloom? How do we get into that place? I'll give you a quick answer. When we walk away from verse 1 and 2. When we walk away, and let's just be honest, life can suck sometimes. I mean, we go through rough times. We go through some things. Have you ever been around those people that they're just going through a real rough spot, but they still got a smile on their face and they're still charging ahead? And you're like, how are you doing that? It's because they're staying in verse 1 and 2. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Bring it on. Bring it on. Okay? When we stay there, the gloom cannot take over. That's why in 6 they're saying the pestilence that strikes in darkness or the destruction that lays waste at noon. We've all seen people that are so down on themselves and so down on the world or things that are happening. You know, it's like, well, you know, one of the things I hate is when people say, I'm just living the dream. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know, we have a friend that would always say, you better get a bigger dream. You know what I mean? But I'm like, you know, I'm looking at your life, and this is no dream. It looks like a nightmare to me. You know what I mean? But when we honestly say, you know what? It does not matter what it looks like around me. I am going to press in. Now get this. When depression, when gloom that is so thick it takes you out in the middle of a sunny day. Okay? A couple of days ago, it was so nice and beautiful. Actually, it was Monday. And I had not taken a day off in so long. And I thought, you know what? I am going to drag this bench out into the sunlight. I got a big old stick and a big old knife, and I sat there and whittled that stick for 3 hours in the sunshine. Man, I just enjoyed. I watched my dog. My dog was watching me. I mean, we were just whittling the stick. Only cut myself 3 times. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah, man. There's something put a smile on your face when you cut yourself with your own knife. You're like, I got that one sharp. It's that joy. And you know what? Life could have been happening around me. It just doesn't matter. We can stay in that place if we will force ourselves into the tabernacle of the Most High. I'm not kidding you. I was sitting out there soaking up some vitamin D in the presence of God. You know? Matter of fact, the presence of God was so thick, Jill called me. She's like, oh, something must be going on over there. No, I mean, she did call me to give me another assignment to do some stuff, and I'll share that later with you guys. But, and so, I mean, literally just in the presence of God, sitting out there whittling a stick. Man, I could have been gloomy. I could have been, you know, you get it. Let me move on. This is so good. I want you guys to get this. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not approach you. You ever read this? You're like, well, at your hand and then at your right hand. What is it? Is he referring to the left hand and it's to the right hand? Or is he saying, you know, by my right hand I'm going to take out 1,000, and then by my right hand again I'm going to take out 10,000s or a myriad? Right? Have you guys ever wondered why it says that? Okay? So when we're reading this for defense. You know, 1,000 may fall at my side. How are they falling at my side? You get what I'm saying? I mean, we just read this, 1,000 is going to fall on my side. Well, Lord, how is that going to happen? Let me take you back to some things that the rabbis, that the sages say. At your right side is referring, or I'm sorry, at your hand. Okay, let's read it again. 1,000 may fall at your side is referring to your left hand. Your left hand. I want you to get a picture of this. Have you ever seen somebody wrap tefillin? Which hand does it go on? Do you know that is the only mitzvah that the left hand is commanded to keep, is to wrap the tefillin around the arm. Tefillin literally means the prayer, or tefillah is the psalms. It's the prayers. Tefillin is wrapped on the left hand. You guys going to get this? I'm excited. I got goosebumps. What is tefillin for? Prayer. 1,000 may fall from my prayer. 1,000 will fall at my side because of my tefillin, my tefillah, my prayer. Do you get it? It gets.
A lot of the Israeli soldiers doing that.
The soldiers are now rapping.
Recently,
And this here, because I'm hoping they understand Psalms 91, because they're telling us to pray that for them. And here it's saying, you know, as they rap tefillin, 1,000 will fall at their left hand. Your left hand represents intimacy. Your left hand is your weaker hand, unless you're like me and you're that. You know, use them both. That's the technical term, you know. Okay? It's your weaker, it's intimacy. And as I wrap myself in the intimacy of prayer, I am bringing myself back to the shelter of the Most High and under the shadow of the Almighty. And it wipes out 1,000 at my side, but get this. And 10,000 at your right hand. What's the right hand for? Authority. Your right hand is what's keeping the rest of the mitzvah. Your right hand is what's keeping the rest of his commandments. Did I say that? Right hand? Did I say that right? Your right hand. Get this. My prayers will wipe out 1,000 people. But me keeping his word and keeping his Torah and keeping his commandments would wipe out 10,000 people. I mean, you guys get that? I want you to understand that tefillin is the prayer. In other words, through the prayer that I have, 1,000 will fall. This really highlights the importance of prayer, right? But prayer alone can only take 1,000 attackers out. But when my actions meet the actions of the Lord, right? We can times that times 10. And I'm taking 10,000 out. Who are we talking about? Are we talking about physical attackers or spiritual attackers? Both. Ephesians 6:12 says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places." When we are keeping his word, we're walking in his mitzvah, we're walking in his laws, his ways. Now think about that. What is most attacked? His ways, right? Get this. When a man of faith is shielded from the forces of evil, myriads of angels will come to his left and right hand and surround him. When a man of faith is walking in God's way, what does John 14:15 say? If you love me, what? Keep my commandments. Why? You know, you could flip that right around and he's saying, I love you, keep my commandments. In Jewish thought, or in Hebrew thought, or rabbinical thought, by keeping one of the mitzvahs, by keeping one of the laws, when he tells us, I want you to do this, when he says, listen, these are my appointed times, and he starts with the Sabbath, you know, on the seventh day, I want you to come together, I want you to meet. When we choose to keep those things, what we're doing is we're strengthening it, and in Jewish mentality or Jewish thoughts, or according to the Talmud, that we're actually creating angels that will come alongside of us and fight us. Okay? It's just a thought. Okay? But I want you to think about this. When I'm walking in his ways, I'm actually attracting angelical help angelic help to come around me. Angelical. That means there must be an evangelical, no, I won't even start. Anyway, I'm attracting angels to come around me to fight with me when I'm walking in His ways. Why? Because it can come into agreement with that, right? Could you imagine that if I'm feeling attacked, but I'm sitting there looking through pornography? What is that attracting? Demonic forces. Do you get what I'm saying? Right? Well, if I'm sitting there shredding somebody and talking them down, but yet I'm asking the Lord to come meet with me, right? I'm attracting demonic forces. When we choose to not walk in His ways, we're actually attracting demonic forces. So when I say 1,000 will fall at my side because of my prayer, but 10,000 will fall at my right hand because of my righteous acts. Okay? Does that make sense? If you think about it, if the enemy can get us not to perform the commandments, he can render us absolutely powerless and overwhelm us with attack. You get what I'm saying? I mean, when we walk in His ways, what pleases Him. Same thing back with my wife. I buy her the candy she likes. I attract her to me. Okay, are we still in covenant? Absolutely. But brownie points, what's that? Even if I don't. But brownie points are cool. And I want to attract her. You know what I mean? Okay. Let me try one more, and then I'll probably end here because I hope that you guys are starting to add to the information so you know how to pray through this. Because this is if you do this, then you get that. I mean, we don't just pray. We don't just read Psalms 91 and say, okay, we're going to be protected because I read it. You're saying, will you come into my tent? Will you come into my place? Will you connect with me on such a deep level that I'm able to come around you and protect you? Okay? Let's go to verse 8. You will only look with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. And so right away I looked at that word recompense, and it means punishment or penalty. You will only look with your eyes and see the punishment and the penalty of the wicked.
See, mine says, see the reward.
The reward, yes. The payment to the wicked. Yes, the reward. And I like how the Art Scroll puts it. Let me just find this. It says, I will merely peer, or you will merely peer with your eyes, and you will see the retribution of the wicked. In other words, just looking. Have you ever been, and this is what it's referring to, okay? Those who, this is talking about those who are refusing to come into the presence of God. Those who are wicked, the wicked people are those who spurn or refuse to sit in the refuge of the Most High. The wicked are those who refuse or reject or disdain the presence of God. You would think the wicked people are the ones that, let's read this again. You will only look on with your eyes and see the payment or the punishment of the wicked. You would think wicked are the ones that are out killing people and selling drugs or doing different things, you know what I mean? He's calling the wicked here people who refuse to sit in His presence, refuse to get to know Him, refuse to come into His presence, refuse, verse 1 and 2. He who dwells in the shadow of the Most High will abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, my refuge, my fortress, my God, whom I will trust. That's who he calls wicked. And literally what it's saying here, according to the rabbis, according to the Talmud, is that when a rabbi, a righteous man, would even just look at somebody that was wicked. It's kind of cool. Because I mean, all through the Word of God, we read things that David had supernatural strengths, that he could run on a wall. You've seen the walls, right? And we know that when they moved the rock off of the well, to feed the camels, it was only one man, and he had just said that I have to wait for everyone to get here so we can move this, right? And he sees Rachel coming, and he just moves it by himself. Supernatural strength, okay? I want you to get this. This right here is speaking of supernatural strength, that you as a righteous man, when you come against somebody or come up, in contest with somebody that is unrighteous, only a look from you will crumple them into a pile of bones. Now, I want you to get this, because if you do that from this vantage point, if you do that from earth's vantage point, then you're walking in pride and arrogance. It goes on to say that one of the sages said this, that a man is delivered from danger when he is delivered from danger because of his own merits, his own obedience, he receives the benefit of seeing the downfall of his enemies. Why? Because he's walking righteous. He's not looking at his enemies falling going like, oh, you had that coming. It looks different, just like Abraham watching Lot. It's different, right? Abraham is a righteous man, and he's looking on to see what's happening in Sodom and Gomorrah, and he's not celebrating. Okay? But if we view that from this earthly standpoint, then we'll see somebody's judgment, and we view that from this vantage point, and we're like, you got what you had coming. No. Okay? But when we only look at those who are walking in disobedience, it says that it brings judgments on them. So when we're reading Psalms 91, and I'm just going to end here, when we're going through Psalms 91, as we're sitting in the tabernacle, as we're sitting in the presence of God and we're carrying that into our lives everywhere we go, when the wicked rise up against us, only a look from us will deter them from doing what they plan to do. Okay? So I hope you guys got some stuff out there. I know I'm struggling a little bit with everything going on, but I believe there's some good nuggets in there. I just want to come back to one thing. Our prayers may take out 1,000, but us walking in the ways that God called us to walk will take out 10,000. It is so important that when we're reading through Psalms 91, we're uplifting other people and ourselves in this, that we realize that God has called us up to His standard. His standard. Not just what offends us for that day, but we need to walk in His standard. And so, Father, I do thank you. Lord, I thank you that the nuggets that are coming out from Psalms 91, people will write down and begin to relate that to their prayers as they go through this. Father, I thank you for that huge nugget that our prayers alone will move 1,000, but our righteous acts will take out 10,000. Lord, I thank you for that. Lord, I thank you that you meet us where our mind tries to tell us that there is something bigger happening. Lord, that if we would stay in your tabernacle, your tent, that you would meet the dread and the gloom that tries to come over us, that you would demolish that so that we could fight from a different vantage point, that we're fighting from the tabernacle, not from our earthly standpoint. I thank you for that. Lord, I ask that you would just settle that in over us in Yeshua's mighty name. We bless you. Amen. Amen. Yeah, you can go ahead and shut that off. And